At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. It's that time, folks. A new Phillies Talk podcast. I'm Corey Seidman. He's Jim Salisbury, and we're here to talk about this red-hot baseball team that has won 5 straight games, 10 out of 11, Jim. We're sitting here on Tuesday as the Phillies open a series against the Marlins at home. This is the literal 2/3 point of the season. The Phillies have played 108 games. They have 54 left. They're playing their best baseball of the season by far, and they even moved up in the standings over these last few days, making up some ground on the Padres, really just changing the whole tone of this playoff push that the Phils are making.
Yeah, the whole tone of the season changed in the month of June after the managerial change and after Mr. Kyle Schwarber and Rhys Hoskins went nuts at the plate in that month at the top of the batting order, leading that team, keeping it afloat, allowing it to make up ground, eventually get to 500. Then they got to 5 over, and now they're 12 over? It's really amazing the turnaround, a 19-game swing since Rob Thompson took over. The thing that jumps out, a couple things recently about me, they're demolishing poor teams. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I do believe that a major league team is a major league team. It's the best players in the world, but these are teams that are struggling for reasons because they're rebuilding, because they're selling off talent in the case of Washington, but they've, demolished the Pirates and the Nationals. And I'm sure the skeptics will say, well, they're red hot because they've beaten the Pirates and the Nationals. You can only play one team on the schedule, the team that appears that night, and they are absolutely running over the teams they should be running over. But since June 1, they've beaten a lot of good teams too. So they've done a really great job, not just getting back into this thing, but now putting themselves in the driver's seat in the cockpit. And good pitching, defense has improved. But the thing that just jumps out to me recently is just the slug and the way they are hitting. Coming out of spring training, we thought this was going to be a very potent lineup. And, they struggled out of the gate, but they are a very potent lineup right now, getting contributions from really all over the place. I have a few numbers here, but go ahead. Give me kind of your take on what you're seeing recently.
Well, yeah, to that point, in the 34 games without Bryce Harper, the Phillies are 21-13. There's only 3 teams in baseball that have been more than a game better than the Phillies over that stretch, and that's the Astros, Dodgers, and Mariners. The Astros and Dodgers, the class of both leagues, and the Mariners, the hottest team, really. But, I don't think we can overlook the contributions of Derrick Hall. The Phillies needed another left-handed power bat when Harper went down because of how much they skewed right-handed. There was Schwarber at the top, but after that, they needed someone else who could pop one in the middle of the lineup from the left side. Hall hits 2 more homers on Sunday. He has 8. He's slugging over 600. To me, what's been most impressive is that he had that big first week in the majors where he hit 3 or 4 homers. Then he kind of went into a 2-3 week slump as there was more of a book on him, but now he's working his way out of it. The Phillies have needed every piece of it, and I don't think they're in this position if Derrick Hall doesn't come up and do damage right away.
He has done a great job. I have so much respect for him because he was never like a top 10 prospect where, okay, we gotta get this guy a lot of playing time because he's a top 10 prospect. We have a lot of money invested in him. He was a 4-year college kid who, was in the system for 6 years, 7 overall because they missed a year with COVID. He was in his 7th season, but he played 6 years in the minors. And he's a kid who had to earn every at-bat he got in the minor leagues. He wasn't going to be handed anything because he was a quote-unquote top prospect. He had to earn his way into the lineup every night. He earned his way to the big leagues with a big power showing at Lehigh Valley when the Phillies had a need with with Bryce Harper. I mean, the front office, great job giving him a shot. Great job, Derrick Hall, capitalizing on this shot. And you're right. I just see him making adjustments. I'm very impressed with his pitch recognition and the way he just absolutely jumps on mistakes. And he, they end up over the wall when you're that big and that strong and you have that nice of a swing. So it was nice to see him have that 2-homer day on Sunday. His grandfather, his grandparents, his granddad, Bo Hall, is kind of a legendary. He is a legendary junior college coach in Arizona. Scouted for a number of years with, I think, the Cubs and the Marlins. And they're a real baseball family. But his granddad and his grandmother were in town. They came in town on Saturday from he's from southeastern Arizona. And he was not in the lineup on Saturday because they were facing a lefty. And he gets in the lineup on Sunday and hits 2 home runs in front of his grandparents. So, that just must have been like a dream come true for that whole family. So I'm really happy for him. And you're right. You take the sentimentality out of it. He has delivered. He has helped this team mitigate the loss of Bryce Harper from the left side. Just done a great job. And he fits in what I was saying earlier about the slug this team has shown. And we thought we'd see that coming out of spring training. And you mind if I just throw you a few numbers here? So
what do you got?
I got, me, I'm Johnny Numbers.
Analytics guy, Jim Salisbury.
So, Alec Boehm, his last 26 games, you can just see this kid is just, the confidence is jumping out of the batter's box. And even in playing third base, gets the ball, there's that little pause and boom, fire it over there without any inhibitions, no tentativeness, just fire it. The kid has been playing with unbelievable confidence. I wrote a story last week coming out of Pittsburgh about how he could have been traded in the month of March. Everybody knew he was available. There wasn't a fit anywhere. And he has just blossomed into it's really fun to see the confidence and the production. Last 26 games, he's hitting .381 with a .996 OPS, 4 homers, and 18 RBIs. JT Realmuto, I see a different player. Confidence. After the first 3 months, I see a much more confident player. It's because he's producing, and that leads to confidence. But the ball is jumping off his bat. He hit a ball out of the strike zone. It was up by his jawbone, and he hit it into the bullpen the other night. Just absolutely powered it. I'm seeing more bat speed. I'm seeing more life in the bat. He just honestly looks stronger. He looks stronger. And maybe he's not stronger. Maybe it's just been a swing adjustment, and maybe it's just more confidence. The leg kick is less pronounced. I think that's helped his timing. But he looks great. Last 17 games, he's hitting .393 with an OPS of over 1,200, 5 homers and 17 RBIs. What a difference that has made. What a difference that can continue to make if he keeps this up. Nick Castellanos, his last 13 games, he's hitting .345 with a .936 OPS, 2 homers, 8 RBIs. Rhys Hoskins, who I thought, if Schwarber was the guy who, drove the train back on the tracks in June, then Harper was the guy with the shovel filling the coal bin and making the steam. Hoskins, I think it's Rhys Hoskins he was tremendous in June. But his last 14 games, .333, an OPS OPS of 1061. He's got 5 homers and 10 RBIs. He's playing great ball, and it's helped. You talk about a team. Everybody's got to pick up each other. Schwarber's the guy that got him back on track, but since July 1, he's only hitting $174 now. He's got 11 home runs. So production comes in different forms. But all these other guys are picking up, and it's really gelling. You got Segura back. You're going to get Harper back at some point. Derrick Hall, who we talked about. The offense has been been fun to watch. It's been opportunistic. It's jumped on these teams, these weaker teams, early in games, which is, you talk about every little piece in baseball fits together. You jump on an opponent early, that makes your starting pitcher's job easier. That helps your starting pitcher. You can attack the zone. It just gives him more confidence and slack to do the things he needs to do. And ultimately now your bullpen gets a rest. It just helps everybody when you're scoring runs. And that's what we're seeing, I think, from the Phillies team.
Yeah, they jumped on and buried the Nationals all weekend. Rhys Hoskins homered in the first inning, 3 games in a row. Sunday, they won 13-1. The Phillies in those 4 games out-homered the Nationals 14-1. looked like hitting season over at Citizens Bank Park. The ball was really jumping. Bryson Stott hitting the ball hard. He's a guy that we didn't mention, but I mean, he's lined out a lot, and yet he still put together a good 2-3 week stretch here, has himself over 200. Rhys Hoskins, we're used to these like torrid stretches that he goes on where he's homering every night, but this has been a sustained one. His last 50 games, he's hitting 291 with an OPS just under 1,000 at 997. So he has really been a strong offensive piece for the Phillies. And with JT Realmuto, I looked at his numbers in mid-June before this kind of began. And since the start of 2021, his slash line was similar to like Chris Coast's career slash line. So that told you that there was probably more that Realmuto would be able to contribute. And he's driven in 24 runs in his last 27 games. The Phillies have needed another run producer in the middle without Harper. Realmuto has been that. And, I'll point out, too, that there's an article at MLB.com today from Mike Petriello looking at teams that have improved defensively. And the Phillies were one of the teams that he mentioned. And Alec Bohm, he looked at Alec Bohm, that Bohm was worth -8 outs above average through the end of May, but he's been worth +2 outs above average since that time. And it kind of gels with what we've seen on the field, which is Bohm not making as many mistakes, especially when he can do things instinctively. The Phillies were built around that slug much more than they were built around their defense, but they went out, they acquired some pieces to bolster the defense, and Brandon Marsh and Edmundo Sosa, and some of their incumbents are playing better too.
Yeah, Sosa made a great play the other night. I mean, he's really going to help that defense. We've talked about incremental moves when you're a good team, the power of an incremental move and inching you forward. And I think he's really going to help that team, when he gets to start defense and late game in the defense area. But you can see it with your eyes with Alec Bohm. He's gotten better defensively. He's not babying the throw over there. He's not guiding it over there. He's not aiming it over there. He's not harpooning it over there. Whatever you want to call it, you can tell when a guy doesn't have confidence in his throw. And he's just firing it. And he's making nice plays. His hands are working better. So this doesn't just happen. He had that 3-error night. I think it was April. I want to say maybe like April 11th against the Mets. And then he didn't play for a few days. And I got to give Joe Girardi some credit here. It could have been a fracturing night for Alec Bohm. And Joe rested him, and they worked with him off the field, and Joe started the ball rolling. Bobby Dickerson, the great infield coach, and he is a great infield coach, he went to work on him. Some of his veteran teammates like Schwarber and Castellanos went to work on him. It takes a village, and Rob Thompson has kept it going. But Girardi, Dickerson, Schwarber, Castellanos, Hoskins, that whole team rallied around him. Now Thompson, but the guy who's done it all, the consistent common denominator is Alec Bohm. He's done the work. He's rebuilt his confidence, and he's become a indispensable player on this ball club here in the summer of 2022. So good for Alec Bohm.
Jim, I know that these situations, as you always say, have a way of working themselves out. But if Bryce Harper returns in a few weeks here and nobody in the lineup is injured, what do you think happens to Derrick Hall? Do you think he becomes a big bat off the bench? Might he go back to AAA for more regular work? What do you think happens?
Well, I'll throw you my standard line. These things always have a way of working themselves out. But I think he's proven that he's a contributor to the 2020 Phillies. I don't know what's going to happen, but I kind of see him being like a bat off the bench. It's nice to have a power bat off the bench. I remember a guy named Matt Stairs. So I think he does have a place on this team. Could he go back to AAA if Harper comes back, gets the bulk of the at bats, and he needs to get some timing? If there's, I guess he could. But I see him as a guy who fits, and I think he's become an important guy that you need to find a spot for him. He fits in the chemistry, he fits in the production. And all phases of the game matter: offense, defense, pitching, bullpen, chemistry, and the bench matters. And it's nice to have a guy who can come off and put a charge in one on the bench. So maybe that's the role he goes into. I guarantee you this: whatever role he gets, he's going to be all in on. He's going to be all in on because that's the kind of guy he is.
So, Jim, the Phillies have moved up in the wild card race. They're in the second spot now. They're a full game ahead of the Padres. San Diego's lost 5 games in a row here. The Phillies they're actually 3 up on the Padres in the loss column. The Phillies have 48 losses. The Padres have 51. And as we've been talking about for a few weeks now, the Phillies own the tiebreakers, the head-to-head tiebreakers over all of these relevant teams: the Padres, the Brewers, the Cardinals, teams that they're locked in a race with here. And that could matter for end of season purposes. And when you look at the Phillies' upcoming schedule, I know we've had a tendency to do this in recent years, but it really stands out. The next 35 games, the Phillies have 25 of them against losing teams. 28 of them against losing teams, and 25 of those 35 games are against teams that are 10 or more games under 500. There's a lot of Reds and Pirates and Diamondbacks. Now, within that, the Phillies do face the Mets 7 times, including later this week. And there's a stretch this week where the Phillies are going to face some amazing pitching between Alcantara and what the Mets have to offer. So important week. And although the Phillies have been cleaning up on these bad teams, it would be a pretty big confidence boost if they could go into that series against the Mets and finally play well against the Mets, because New York's had their number all year.
Yeah. Phillies are, 3-9 against the Mets this year. So, I mean, you could say, they had all those early games against the Mets and they were so bad. You could say, there's a lot of things that cost Joe Girardi's job. Everything from just the team underperforming, and the outfield defense was horrible. But in particular, their performance against the Mets really kind of greased the skids there. But yeah, they need to build some confidence against the Mets. They need to play better against the Mets. I think they're a different team now than the last time they saw the Mets. That was right on the doorstep of the managerial change, and they blew a horrible game on a Sunday night up there at Citi Field. I'm interested to see. They got Ranger Suarez, Aaron Nola, and Wheeler going against Scherzer, deGrom, and Bassitt. I mean, talk about some pitching matchups. You and I talked about this way back in, I think there was still snow on the ground with Scherzer and deGrom, how it could be Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling for the 0-1 Diamondbacks. And it looks like they could have that. So you're facing two gargantuan talents there right out of the gate Friday and Saturday night, and Scherzer and deGrom. It'll be a really good test for the Phillies, the way they've been slugging it. Good pitching can stop good hitting, but doesn't mean you can't find a way to win. I think back to that getaway day game, I think it was August 3rd in Atlanta. Zach Wheeler keeps him in it all day, and then a walk, a base hit, a great base running play, and a 2-run home run, you win the game. So, we'll see. But they do need to play better against the Mets. You mentioned they've caught the Padres and gone past the Padres. Padres have, elite talent, difference-making talent. They have not yet shown they have difference-making character and chemistry. So that's still a challenge for them. They need to, they collapsed last year. They need to overcome it and play better this year. The Phillies can't worry about that. The Phillies need to worry about the Phillies and keep steaming ahead. You mentioned that they play a bunch of losing teams. They can't fumble the ball here. And I do expect them to make the playoffs. We all expect them to make the playoffs coming out of Clearwater, and it just feels like that's where they're headed. Feels like they're ready to get there. I don't think they're going to fumble the ball against these losing teams, because I think their starting pitching is going to keep them in games. Like we talked about, their defense is getting better. Their bullpen has been very good since June 1. I mean, defense and bullpen were fatal flaws the last couple of years, and they're slugging like we expected them to slug. And they do have character in that room with Scherzer, with Hoskins, with Wheeler, who is just ultra serious and ultra focused on the task at hand. So I think all of those ingredients are important. I think this is a manager they respond to. He has harped on the importance of taking every team, not taking any team lightly, taking every team seriously. So I just think they got a good thing going. And it would be awfully nice if they could get into the playoffs. It would be awfully nice if they could somehow arrange their pitching where they didn't need Wheeler and Nola to squeak in that last week, and you could have them to open a short series. I think they could be quite dangerous.
Well, to that point, this is just something to file away in the back of your mind, but the final 3 games of the season, the Phillies play the Astros, which on the surface, that might sound like a challenging series, but the American League, the top seed in the American League, might be locked up by then. And if it is, whether it's the Astros or the Yankees, the Astros could be in rest mode. So that might be a series where the Phillies don't need to go all out. And if they're in a position where, they've already clinched a spot, perhaps they could rest some key guys too. So we'll see. But Jim, this is the first time we've sat down. We sat down after the trade deadline, but this is the first time we've done this since Noah Syndergaard pitched. So just early impressions of the new guys. We've seen a lot of Brandon Marsh in center field. David Robertson, you kind of know what to expect. Solid veteran reliever who's going to attack hitters. Syndergaard in that first start against the Nationals got the win. It was a rain-shortened game. But he gave up 11 hits and 4 runs in 5 innings. What did you see out of him that night?
Just what you saw, a lot of contact. I think he's going to need to be better than that. And I think there's a chance he will be. I mean, he pitched to about a 3.80 ERA over in Anaheim. If he can just maintain that, the way this rotation's been, I think it's going to be good enough. But yeah, he wasn't impressive in his first start, but boy, sometimes that's tough. I mean, I think he had only pitched like once in 17 days, and that was his first start in 9 days. So there was some rust there. I'm sure there was some nerves there. He doesn't throw as hard as he used to. If he's got his sinker ball going and they're playing good defense behind him and get 6 innings out of him, I'll take that. He's not that flamethrower he used to be. I mean, maybe who knows what he's going to get back as he gets more and more away from Tommy John surgery. But I still like the pickup. I think he needed something. Innings are very valuable. Starting rotation needed support, and I think in that 5-hole he can give you enough of it. They're going to score some runs for him. They're going to have to play good defense behind him. When does he go? He goes on Wednesday night against Sandy Alcantara, who since June 1, probably Alcantara and Wheeler have been the 2 best pitchers in the National League. deGrom and Scherzer have been out over that span of time, and now they're back. So there's an awful lot of good pitching in the National League East.
Yeah, and so over these next 3 games, the Phillies have the Marlins. And I know that there's the tendency to say, oh, the Phillies struggle against the Marlins. And they certainly have for many years. But last 2 series, the Phils swept them in Miami and won 2 of 3. So they've won 5 of the last 6. And right now, this Marlins team is not scoring any runs without Jazz Chisholm, with their veteran players really producing little in terms of Jesus Aguilar and Avisail Garcia. The Marlins are averaging like 2 runs per game over the last 2 weeks. So while all of the arms that they can trot out there could be difficult on the Phillies, this is another series where they should be able to pound the opponent. If they score 3-4 early runs, could be all they need.
Yeah, and we've seen the template for that. They've been scoring 3, 4, 5, 6 early runs and running to the bank with it. So they just need to keep that up. They need to keep that up. They did a great job on the Marlins. To close the first half before the All-Star break. I do think they squashed some demons down there. And I think they may have flushed their system of that. It's just everything feels different around this team. Real Muto was saying the other day, we lose 2 or 3 games in a row, but, we come right back and we win 4 or 5 in a row. He said in the past, that 2 or 3 losses in a row would turn into 6 or 7. It's not happening. They're a different team. They've built a really solid chemistry. They're slugging the ball, getting good pitching, bullpen and starting rotation, playing better defense. You can have all the analytics in the world that you want. You can just see the confidence. You can feel it in that clubhouse, and you can feel the very positive vibe that is going on, a winning vibe. It's not just a positive vibe and, hey, how you doing? Everybody's happy. No, it's the right kind of vibe. It's a winning vibe. And still a long way to go, 50-plus games. Got to keep it up, but they've built a really good foundation here since June 1 under Rob Thompson, who I've actually started to sprinkle it into my stories. I'm thinking strong manager of the year candidate in the National League.
Yeah, I mean, barring a collapse, what more could he have shown? The team's 19 games over 500 since Thompson took over. They've really changed the conversation. And, it's not just that the vibes are better. It's also that, and this is blatant when you look at how fans respond, whether it's on Twitter or wherever, that they're inspired by the fact that the Phillies have a mixture of veterans and young guys producing. Like some of the homegrown Phillies are really standing out this year. On Sunday, Hoskins homered. Stott had a big day. Maton homered. Bohm had another good game, and he's hitting in the mid-290s. So it's been a good balance for the Phillies of high-paid guys producing and also guys at the beginning of their careers pretty much establishing themselves here during a playoff race. So yeah. Zach Wheeler on the hill for the Phils tonight against Braxton Garrett, who's a big strikeout pitcher. Struck out 11 in his last start in 5 2/3 innings against the Reds. Then, as we mentioned, the Phillies get Alcantara, deGrom, and Scherzer in the span of 4 days. So, if they can perform well offensively in those games, they'll probably feel like they can hit anyone. He's Jim Salisbury. I'm Corey Simon. Thanks a lot for listening to the Phillies Talk podcast. We'll catch you later in the week.